this is a crime. Every time you put cream in your carbonara. No. But it happens a lot. Stick around to see why this is a no-go, because today we're diving into the world of authentic spaghetti carbonara without cream, onions, or any other suspicious additions. We're learning how to make the real deal from a guest chef. We'll hear the surprising backstory of this famous dish, and while we're here, get some insights into the life of a chef in his own unfiltered words. I'm Stan. We're in the Dalstrong Test Kitchen, and this is Culinary Academy, where you can level up your cooking by learning directly from the best in the game. Today we're joined by Chef Guy Ferrara, an industry-leading private chef. Guy, how long have you been a chef?
Going on 23 years.
Where did you start?
I started my college program at George Brown. From there, I went to the Italian culinary program. I did some hotel training at the Four Seasons. I was at a 3 Michelin star restaurant in Padova called Lake Calandre. Fantastic place, really unique region, really great wines.
I personally am a huge hockey fan, and I've heard that you were a private chef to one of the top 5 leading point scorers in the NHL. Is that true?
Yes, sure.
You know what I'm going to ask you next.
I can't tell you.
We'll come back to it later.
For sure.
Go back to it later. Maybe you'll change your mind.
You can keep trying.
Sounds good. What are we cooking today?
Today we're making pasta carbonara. Italian classic. Pecorino, guanciale, eggs, black pepper. That's it.
Awesome. I have a question.
Sure.
I love history. The backstories of certain dishes.
Of course.
Is there one for this particular dish?
I think for this dish there's about 5, but the one that gravitates to me the most would be that is basically the dish of the people who would sweep the chimneys. The black pepper is resemblant of the carbon and the charcoal that would be coming from their hats when they would sit down for lunch. It would sprinkle onto their dish, and then people named it the carbonara from the carbone, charcoal.
All right, so how do we start?
So we'd start with a few things. We're gonna have our guanciale here, which we would render down. We have our black peppercorns. So for me, when I'm kind of making this dish, what I like to do is to toast my peppercorns first. So I'm gonna take some of these and I'm just gonna toast them in my pan.
Now for the people who don't understand some of the lingo, what does render mean?
Render means to basically melt the fat out of this guanciale. Now the difference between guanciale and bacon would be this is actually technically bacon from the cheek of the pig.
Right.
So it's cured pork jowl. It's very, very delicious, very fatty, but has tons of flavor and is really gonna impart that richness to the dish. These peppercorns are gonna give it that little bit of bite to help kind of break through that. We're gonna have our beautiful eggs that we're gonna make a nice creamy paste with our pecorino and pasta water.
So first step, you toast the peppercorns.
Toast our peppercorns, okay? They don't need a lot of toasting. What we're trying to do is basically give them that extra nuttiness in terms of flavor, and it actually helps heighten the aromatics, and it kind of drops the level of spice in a way, right? And I'm gonna take my pork jowl here. Okay, so when we're cutting through the jowl, we wanna just make sure we can get really nice, maybe 1 centimeter pieces.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask you the thickness. Does the thickness matter? Because I'm sure it does, right, when you're rendering it.
Absolutely. So basically we're gonna go 1 centimeter each, okay? And then we're gonna cut them into cubes. So you can see here just how much fat is in here.
Absolutely.
Okay. So all of this fat we're gonna end up reserving after it melts out, and we're gonna cream it with the pecorino and the egg yolks, so we're gonna make a paste. And I'm going to show you guys a method today where you probably won't have too much of a chance of scrambling it, because we're actually gonna finish this dish not in a pan, but in a bowl. And this way here we can never get our temperature too high, because we're not gonna be putting it onto an open flame or a heat source.
Indirect heat.
Indirect heat is your friend. Absolutely. So now I'll take this jowl, and you'll hear right away.
Yeah.
Remember everybody, no extra fat added, okay? You see a lot of chefs, sometimes they'll put a little bit of fat in the pan to help the rendering process, but this is more just a patience.
And you're not adding any salt or anything at this point?
No salt in this dish added. A little bit in the pasta water just to help bring it to a boil.
Right.
But other than that, we're just gonna use the natural saltiness of the pecorino cheese, which is very salty. It's pecorino romano.
For those of you watching at home, another story about how carbonara came to be was how it was invented during World War II, when American soldiers in Rome mixed their rationed eggs and bacon with pasta. Which do you adhere to? Which one do you think is accurate?
Regardless of the two stories, I think every grandmother would just agree on one thing. You don't put cream in a carbonara, or else nonna might disown you.
Fair enough. I know mine would. Why guanciale? Why not pancetta or bacon or speck?
Well, traditionally, this is just what's used, likely just because it's native to the region and specific for these pasta dishes. Now, under the umbrella of Roman classical pastas, there's 3 that use guanciale, and they're all very similar. We have amatriciana, we have carbonara, and we have gricia, which are all very similar, just with one ingredient separating. So I think the main message is The constant is the guanciale, the variant is the additional ingredients.
I see, okay. What's the difference, in your opinion, between doing this at home versus doing it in a professional kitchen?
I think the big difference is obviously the equipment we have at hand and the speed that you're preparing the dishes at. But for the most part, all of the ingredients we're using here today are available at your supermarket, which is great. And you actually have the time to do it properly at home without the pressure of having to make 5 more dishes on top. Now you can see here, we started in a dry pan and now we have all of this extra fat rendering out.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna render it all out completely so that we end up getting little nuggets of crispy guanciale just like that. And we're gonna save all that fat, and that's what's gonna give us our richness, and that's what's gonna keep us from having to put cream in our carbonara.
Right.
That's gonna help add that fat. All right, so Stan, this is all about learning, okay? You see this fat that we've rendered out?
I do.
We wanna keep all that. That's what's gonna help really bring this sauce together. So all my crispy guanciale that I have rendered down here, I'm gonna save that, and that's gonna get tossed in with our pasta, give us some beautiful texture, saltiness, and crunch. And I'm gonna put all that right into my bowl, and we're gonna save that for making our sauce. So we're gonna grate down our pecorino nice and fine, and don't be shy. This dish requires a lot of cheese, a lot of fat, a lot of egg yolk, and we're gonna make a really nice creamy base with this. So now I'm just gonna cream the fat and the cheese together a little bit.
That's just it, fat and cheese.
And it's gonna basically make a paste.
Why would you ruin this with cream?
Exactly.
Okay, so now what are we doing?
Right now we're just separating our egg yolks.
Okay.
Now, the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want our egg whites to go into the pasta, okay? Yolks only. Now, we use the yolks only specifically because yolks actually cook at a higher temperature, and the egg whites would end up scrambling as soon as they touch the pasta. So this is why we do this, okay?
Okay, and the yolk is, I'm assuming, almost strictly for texture?
This helps give it that silkiness that the cream that everyone put in there would substitute. So you're gonna get this really rich creaminess, and it'll emulsify in with the pasta water and the cheese to give you a creamy, pasty sauce.
Right.
And then we're gonna basically, we're going to end up, and it'll become one really creamy, homogeneous sauce. All right, so now we're at the stage where we're pretty much ready to boil our pasta, okay? So if you look here, you can see just how roughly textured this is.
Yeah.
So this is cut with a bronze die. So it's extruded through a bronze pasta press, and essentially through force, because this dough is actually really hard.
Yeah.
As it comes through the press, all these little ridges try to grab from the brass, and that's what gives you this texture. Now that is what's gonna help the sauce cling to the noodle.
Right.
Okay, so when you're looking at high quality dry pasta, make sure that it's not bright yellow in color. You want it to be kind of like a beigey, off-white cream color.
Now, in terms of the flour that is used to make the pasta, does that matter so much?
Absolutely, and it can vary anywhere from dry pasta to fresh pasta. So fresh pasta, you're looking for something that is a high protein pasta like a 00 flour.
Sure.
In this case, this is a semolina flour, so it's durum wheat, so it's quite hard. But that's what gives it its rigidity. Obviously, you can see just even still, as it's dry, it still has room to flex. So this is a high quality noodle that we're gonna be cooking.
Fantastic. What do you think the biggest mistake or pitfall home cooks experience when they're making pasta like this from scratch at home? You're a professional.
I think when people cook, a lot of times they do it always under duress. They're stressed, they're in a rush to try and get the family fed. These kinds of dishes that are time sensitive and temperature sensitive, you need a little bit of time. It doesn't take long to make it, but it needs your focus to make such simple ingredients sing to what they deserve to be.
100%.
All right, so we're almost at the point where we're ready to complete the pasta, okay? So first law of coarse grated black pepper. Don't be shy, okay? This part of the stars of the dish is the black pepper, okay?
Okay. And what's going to happen to the pepper that you were roasting off at the beginning here? Well,
This is it, I put it in the food.
oh, you put it in the food. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we have that as our base. We're gonna add half of our guanciale crispy. You can hear how crispy that is, okay? And we're going to give that a stir.
Whoa.
And now we're gonna add a little bit of our pasta water. So what we're doing right now is that pasta water is literally tempering those eggs so that it'll slowly start to coagulate.
Yeah.
And it'll start making that creamy pasta, okay? That sauce, you can see already, it's really starting to work together, okay?
So yeah, so you get that. You use the pasta water to essentially cook the egg yolk, yeah?
Correct. Now the noodles are supercharging and heating up that pasta even further. And now we can start the creaming process here, okay?
All right.
So I like little trick. I like to put this right back on top of the double boiler.
Yep.
And what that's gonna do, it's gonna slowly start to help cream up that pasta, okay? And this is how we don't overcook our pasta. We just really help everything start to thicken.
Indirect heat.
Indirect heat.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Where in Toronto is your favorite carbonara?
Actually, I don't order this dish in restaurants. Funny story, every restaurant that I've worked at that has it on the menu, usually when I take over as the chef, I eliminate it from the menu just because it is problematic and cooks can't seem to really get it right when it's busy. So it takes a little bit of time to adjust to learning how to do it. So a lot of times we just take it off.
Oh, look at that. Look at that creaminess.
Now we'll just hit this with some more guanciale on top. And we're gonna hit it with a little bit more.
You know, I've always maintained that, you know, the best dishes are balanced dishes, you know, like between salt and sweet and fat and acid. But there's no acid in this dish, is there?
There is no acid in this dish, and it's meant to be eaten with a very famous Italian drink, wine.
Right.
So that's where it all
That's
comes
where you get
together.
the acid.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, that should work.
Shall we dig in?
Absolutely.
Salud. Oh, man. My dead grandmother would be very proud. Nona, this one's for you. Thank you for joining the Culinary Academy. And stay tuned for the next time when we reveal the name of hockey player.
Just eat your pasta stand.